I have been dealing with an impossible reconciliation. An impossible reconciliation. Of course, on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of this month, we enjoyed some vintage broadcast by my late grandfather. Then, of course, we had the Saturday program, the Lord's Day yesterday, and now I'm back with you on Monday, February the 6th. I've been dealing with the matter of secular education and Christian or a Bible-based education. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And yet our country today, our educational system has fallen entirely prey to utter and complete secularism. It has been totally and completely secularized. To say that the secularism of the public education system in America, if conducted in ignorance, is a stretch of believability. For us to have the idea that the men and women promoting the matter of secular education in the United States, that they are doing this ignorantly, is a bit beyond a reasonable line of thought. C.F. Potter, a humanist, said concerning education, I quote, "Every American public school is a school of humanism. What can the theistic Sunday schools meeting for an hour once a week and teaching only a fraction of the children do to stem the tide of a 5-day program of humanistic teaching?" Now, this humanist has told the truth. C.F. Potter says that we get the children into the public school system and we meet with them 35 hours a week. We have them in class for 9 months. And there's no way that the Sunday school meeting for 1 hour on Sunday and having only a small fraction of the children can compete with what we can do by and large on a wholesale level with all the children under our control and our indoctrination. There are many positive distinctions between the public and Christian education system, and these differences are the reason there is such a venomous hatred of the state against the Christian school phenomena and the private school phenomena. Number one, we are not controlled by the state. This is probably the biggest single reason for the abject hatred against the Christian school movement. You see, the state despises anything it cannot control. Secondly, we are not censored by the politically correct. The language is changing. I heard today on the radio that now in some of the crossword puzzles that come out of the newspaper and in crossword word puzzle books, this language of cis, gender, and transgender. And one of the questions on one of the game shows was, what is the color, the first color in the rainbow flag? And there is the utter indoctrination, just the total manipulation by the politically correct to steal from us the language. If you can control the language, you can control the narrative. That is precisely what the left is doing, and I have to admit they're doing a very good job of it by controlling the language. They desire to entice us into their accreditation. Then they long to manipulate the minds of the faculty by swelling their heads with state certification. I made this comment the other day when I was touching on this, but one of the schools, leading schools that is not accredited, was quite questioned by the accreditation body, and they said, we can't be accredited, we educate the creditors. We educate the people that give out the accreditation. How can we be accredited when we are above the matter of accreditation? Number three, public education despises the Christian school movement and private education because we are not corrected by the worldly wise. Horace Mann is the father of the present day public education system, and he taught that he was a utopian, and he taught that we could educate ourselves out of all of our problems, that we could educate ourselves out of poverty, we could educate ourselves out of sickness and out of crime. All you need to do is watch the news, and you'll discover very quickly how wrong Horace Mann was. His philosophy in this matter is a complete and an abject failure. We have more poverty today, more sickness today, and more crime today than at any time in the history of the United States. Number 4, one reason that we are not loved or despised by the state, Christian education, private education, we are not contributing to society's breakdown. Now, you would have to have come here from another planet to not observe the cultural and moral rot, the utter and complete rot of society. I have had men that are not preachers that have commented to me, and they have said, Ben, it appears that the whole society is rotting right before our very eyes. The whole thing is decaying. Well, now, without the Bible, there is no unmovable standard for practice. And you realize that all of our civility is derived from the Bible. Without the Bible, there is no quote-unquote civilization. Civilization based on the use of the word civil or civility. You realize in the history of the human family, when the pagans and the heathen have been evangelized by the preaching of the gospel, that those pagan, godless societies became civil and just and moral and decent and right. When you remove the Bible from any society or civilization, they become more corrupt and less civil. There was a day when a man's conscience, because of the Bible and what a man had been taught from the Bible and the instruction, the high ideals and the high moral standards of the Bible, was preached into men and women all of their life. The Bible was read in the home. The Bible was taught in the Sunday school. The Bible was preached from the pulpit. Our churches had revival meetings and protracted meetings where the pastor opened the Bible and read and preached out of the Bible. And all of these principles of conduct and moral behavior and the high ideal of the Bible was preached into the hearts and minds of men. And this had an effect on them. It took hold in their hearts and took hold in their minds. And out of that we had men that would do the right thing, though on the inside they have a corrupt nature just like you and I have. But just like you and I, they were compelled to live and follow a higher standard. They were compelled to not yield themselves to the base appetites and the base desires of the corrupt nature, but to resist and buffet the corrupt nature and to do that which was right, even though there would be no public accolades and no one would notice it, no one would observe that, but they were compelled by the scriptures to do that which is honorable and upright and moral and godly and right. Without the Bible, there is no foundation. What is there without the Bible? If we have an utterly and entirely secular society, what is it to compel men to do the right thing? What is it to compel men to not take bribes and to not thwart justice and to not demonize justice and to not teach that right is wrong and wrong is right without the Bible? When we say we have our justice system, we have our court system, what is to keep the judges from being corrupted if there is not quote unquote a higher power, if there is not the law of God which is above the law of man, if there is no personal responsibility that each man has to God, you know, I might get by with it in the dark, and you might not know anything about it, and I might be able to lie, cheat, and steal. But one day I'm going to stand before God, and the books are going to be opened, and I am going to give an account of the deeds done in the body, whether they be good or evil. And I will not get by, because though man may not know it, God knows it. And because of the influence of the Bible and the consciousness that men have of God, it guided them and directed them and reined them in from giving themselves to the utter and the complete base appetites of the world. So you say our civil system, we have civil justice. What do you do when DAs let murderers out on the street? When you have district attorneys and judges that have no cash bail, and somebody gets arrested for breaking into Macy's or breaking into a department store and stealing Rolex watches and video games and clothing and tennis shoes, and they run out, and the DA won't do anything about it, and he won't let the chief of police prosecute it, and the police officers won't prosecute it. The whole thing breaks down. Society will crumble under our feet. It is crumbling under our feet. As I preach to you today, our society is collapsing right before our very eyes, because it doesn't have the cement of the Bible and the foundation of God's Word and the foundation of divine truth to hold it all together, to bond it all together. And then I remind you, number 5, the state hates Christian education because we are not corrupted by the state's tax money. Anytime public funds are given, tax money is given, they always come with strings. And since corrupt man longs for more money, they will often sell their very soul for the acquisition of more money. When it takes state money, the state sets the curriculum. They ignore the traditional teaching method, and they seek to indoctrinate the young. Now, my time has gotten away from me on the program today, but with the Lord's help and your listenership, I will deal with this on the broadcast tomorrow. And I hope you'll be listening to the Bright Spot Hour at that time.
Spot Hour, Post Office Box 4, Greenville, South Carolina